All right, Facebook. Jeremiah is doing just fine. Okay, let's pick up our conversation. We want to talk about that single father, as I stated with my kid's father and his relationship. Even doing visitations, the children can have it hard. Okay, um, um, I know some of you had the questions about the single fathers and even in that, allowing that child to go and having to be in a home where there's argument because of them, where they're the focus or the center of an argument all the time. As he stated, she screamed at him. He never screamed at the children. In fact, he never raised his voice. He's always been that type of person. He doesn't like screaming and yelling. At the time, I was like that. I didn't scream and yell a lot either. When I was married to him or even dating him, even after we dated, he never raised his voice. Not one time. He's not a screamer. He's a nonchalant person. He just whatever. That's the kind of person he is. And so to be married to someone who screams at your child, amen, that's what he thought. He said she screamed at him. And then they were having their arguments, their differences. And so he felt like he was going to cover his children. He was in the house with a wife. Now, again, I believe he may be listening, so I don't want to use him as my topic. But if a man is in the home with the stepmother or stepfather, amen, and he has to guard his children, and they live a separate life, although in the same home, is it healthy? Because that goes back to that first one where the court gave the child to the military man, because the military are for military. Someone told me one day in email, that's probably why you're not getting your child support, because he's military. They're not touching the second one who's not military, because he just went in, went out. But the first one is military. Amen. And so is that the reason why your check is not coming? Is he getting the money? Is the money going back to him? And what's going on? Amen. And so I don't know, but he's military. Amen. So with the first one who actually got the children because he was married, he was in the military, he had a stable job, and they gave him the children. What if, amen, there was hassle in the home like that, where he was actually raising them, and from my understanding, the home was destroyed because there was no agreement with the children. Amen. There's some folks that they feel like they can handle the children. Let me also say this. Men sometimes date and the woman is unaware of the children, or she feels as if those children are not with him. I'm not going to have to take care of them. They're not going to be our responsibility. Some women just love the intimacy of the relationship. They don't even consider the children. Even if he is the father, they feel like they can do it. And then you have some mothers that are going to home and pull up the sleeve and help raise that child. They will get in there, and the problem becomes when there's another child, when the mother has a child and the father has a child. That's when the problem comes in, because the children begin to fight. And we sometimes get partial when the children begin to fight. Yes, we get partial because we feel like one is, come on, because that's a very good one too. What do you think when there's a fight between the children? She has a child and he has a child, and they're different. They don't have a child together, and the children begin to fight one another. Come on, how would you handle that? The father, will he be able to discipline both children, or does he discipline both children the same? Sometimes when the father's in the home, especially when he has only visitation rights, he hadn't seen the child, he's lacking in some control over the child, and the child comes over for visitation with a child that's always in the home. He tends to have partiality toward that child. And a lot of times it's not that he's trying to have partiality, but he's trying to restore something in that child. But it robs the other one that's in the home of that love, that affection. Especially when the father is not affectionate. Come on, let's talk about that one. Because there are some men who are not affectionate until that child comes over temporarily. They have enough strength. They're not as tired as that permanent parent or the custodian parent, as they call it. They're not as tired. They're not as worn down. So they have all this vibrancy in them. And so they want to do so much with that child that's temporary, like the grandparents. That's how some fathers are. They're like the grandparents in the home. They know they can send that child home. I've seen men actually don't even come and keep their children when they come to see them. You know what I'm saying? Forgive me. But men who come from out of town and you don't live in the same state, and you come and you ain't seen these children, and you see them for an hour or two or a day, and then you spend the rest of the time off wondering, that's what a parent have to deal with, a custodian parent. You're already tired, and you would like for a love for these parents to come down and spend some equal time, but when they come over, they spend a little amount of time with the child, and that's the same thing that happens inside of a home. And you try to bring that child over temporarily with that child who has been there. Amen. And so when something happens in the home, especially if that father won't bond to that stepdaughter, stepson, he's not bonding. And so that stepchild began to feel like, Mom, how come he's like that with his children? And really the only reason he's like that with his children is because he's trying to pull something from them. He knows they're his, but he's not mature enough to take the full responsibility of them. So he has to try to restore. That's what happens when a father knows he hadn't been doing the part. He tries to restore. And so the other child is looking at this and say, why is he so mean to us? Why is it that he don't love on us the same? And so you have problems in the home. And then if you have that child coming into the home with the other one, what happens when a relationship begins with two children from two set of parents? And they come together and try to make one household. What happens? There's a destruction. Yeah, you have to be careful. Sometimes there's a destruction because the children, if they're not raised properly, especially when they're spoiled children, especially in girls and daddies, they want daddy's attention. It's hard for girls to release daddies, like Jeremiah did the other day on the phone. He don't want me talking to anyone. Come on, son. Amen. Come on. And mothers are like that too. They gain control of their little boys or their children. And when they go off to get married, they won't leave the house. They won't leave the family. They're still there with the son. He goes get married. They're in the son's house. This is my son's house. Therefore, I have two homes. And I want you to understand that before you even marry him, that whatever y'all get is mine. Amen. They never let him go. They feel like this is my son. I raised him for 18 years. And so this house is going to be mine because he owes me. He owes me money. Amen. And so parents can get like that, women and men. You got to be careful. The father coming in and say, well, no, I need to come and clean this up. I need to repair this. Well, we don't need you to repair this, sir. I know how to. No. I'm her daughter. I'm her father. I've been doing this for years. You don't know what you're doing. She knows the way I do it, right? And so you have parents that won't release it, just like you have children. They won't release parents. Amen. 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 And so we're in a home now, and we see children, and the children are not together. And so the parents fight. So you have to be careful when you release children into homes, because as he said, well, that can help with a female too. Not all the time. A lot of times when we go into a relationship, we go in covering our children because our hearts are different. And I know some men would do it too. Some men will. But the full responsibility of a parent is for both parents. If we take it back to old school, and we have 2 minutes, if we take it back to old school, I kind of got lost somewhere up in there. I did. I feel like I'm lost. No, I'm just kidding. If we take it back to old school, parenting is both parents, as much as possible. Both parents, yeah. Both parents being involved. And having a loving, if you have to happen to divorce, getting a lovable wife who's going to stay there with you and love your children. I had an auntie once, and she wasn't just good with with his children, but she was good with us. She was really lovable, and she's still out there. She's on my Facebook. She was one of my favorite aunts. I have favorite step aunts, aunts-in-laws. And she was very good. She came into the home, but the men, a lot of times when you go into these homes where men receive custody, you'll see the stepmother taking care of them. You'll see men going off still on their cheating rendezvous, that wife, that girlfriend actually handling, and he really don't know what's going on because he's gone. He's feeling like, oh, well, as long as I got him. All she wanted me to do is get him. I'm a father just because I can come home and look at him. My girlfriend has him. She's raising him, and so I'll come in the house and I'll lay down sometime until I get some nap, and I go back out, and some men, they still cheat and leave their kids right there in the home, and you get little simple girls, and they run around the house and they take care of the kids, and he loves her because she's taking care of his children, and she's still putting up with him, and she's still loving the child. He don't know what's going on when he leaves. She could take it out on. No, I'm not going to put that in your head. I'm going to leave this conversation for now, but I wanted you to hear the rest of it. And if you have a child and you're raising them by yourself, stay strong. We commend you on that, brothers. Keep the hope alive and raise them to be honorable people.